When people use the term mental health, what they're often really talking about is mental illness. And it is an important distinction to make. We can think of mental illness as an overarching term for recognised conditions such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, psychosis and the like. Whereas here is a definition of mental health from the World Health Organization. Mental health is a state of well-being in which the individual realises his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her own community. So that is a very positive statement. You've probably also heard people using the term mental well-being or wellness. Now, well-being and wellness are words that cover several aspects of the way that people feel about their lives, including their jobs, their relationships, and the people around them. Well-being is about feeling good and functioning well, or to reiterate Jesus' words, to have life in all its fullness. So what is it about life that prevents that fullness? Well, I'm sure you don't want to watch me going on for hours about it, and I'm also even more sure that you can think of your own examples. But of course, one of the most common words we use to describe this unsatisfactory and difficult feelings that we experience is the word stress. It's important to distinguish stress from pressure. Now, we all need a degree of pressure to enable us to function well, to feel confident, to undertake and complete tasks. Being under some pressure is good, but when that pressure becomes too much for us to cope with, then that is stress. So let's be clear, there is no such thing as good stress. Stress is always harmful and can lead not only to physical health problems, but mental health difficulties such as anxiety and depression. So, what can we do to handle the stresses of life and maintain good mental health? I'd like to offer 3 well-recognised suggestions. You may well be familiar with them. The first is called 5 Ways to Wellbeing. Now, you may have seen these in different forms, but these are the original ones developed from the research back in 2008. Connect. Whether we like it or not, we are made to be social beings. And that lack of connection in the periods of lockdown was particularly difficult, wasn't it? And now many are hesitant about being with other people. But having contact with others is an important part of our well-being. To be active, doing some form of physical exercise is well recognised as being helpful, whether it's running a marathon or walking the dog, or if you have physical limitations, doing some form of exercise in your chair is a good thing to do. Take notice. When we're feeling down, sometimes the last thing we want to do is to hear about other people. But take notice of what's going on for others. It can help Take notice. When we're feeling down, sometimes the last thing we want to do is to hear about other people's problems. But taking notice of what's going on for others can help put our situation into perspective. We can also interpret this particular way to well-being as one which takes notice of the world around us. That beautiful sunset or the autumn leaves. And keep learning. Why not think of taking up a new hobby or studying something? It wouldn't be for an exam, just learning something new, keeping the brain active and stimulated. And giving to others. Well, we all love receiving those random acts of kindness, don't we? Somebody making us a coffee or giving us some flowers. And also when we do things for the benefit of others and see their reaction and pleasure. What's important about the 5 ways to well-being is having them in balance. If one of those 5 ways is absent or not as fulfilled, then our well-being will not be as good. So maybe take some time to think about how the 5 ways are found in your life. Secondly, and based on something called Wellness Recovery Action Planning, You may also like to take an approach that considers these 5 questions. You could perhaps have 5 sheets of paper with each question written at the top, and then write things down and have it as a file on your computer or phone. What am I like when I'm well? What makes me me? Maybe write down some of the things that you like about yourself. Maybe it's your sense of humour, or you feel relaxed, content, happy. What are the words that you would use to describe the best person you like to be? What do I do to keep myself well? Well, maybe it's making sure I listen to some music or go for a walk or have a prayer time every day. And then those things that we might do every so often, perhaps meeting a particular friend, or going to a concert or for a swim. And then what changes do I notice when my well-being is not as good? Maybe we're experiencing some disturbed sleep, or being more irritable, perhaps doing things that aren't particularly good for us. So it's when we begin to notice those things that we need to reread what we've written down for question 2, so we can then return to being like the person we are in question 1. And what would I like others to do or not to do? One of those common complaints we might make when we're in times of difficulty is to say to someone, well, you should have known what to do. We can't assume that people will know how to help us. So try and confide in some, talking to them about what you find helpful and what is unhelpful. And then keep those pieces of paper up to date and keep them in a place where you can easily find them, simply to remind yourself of what it is that helps keep you well. If you've watched the other 2 short films in this series, you'll have picked up the theme of what we can learn from people who met Jesus. Those films considered the man from the Gerasenes and also the impact of Judas Iscariot's death upon those around him. So for the third in this set of suggestions, let's think about what Jesus himself did to live well. So of course it's speculation. The Gospels and the New Testament accounts don't tell us everything about Jesus. But he ate, drank, walked a lot, connected with lots of other people, gave to others, took notice of the world around him. And as someone who was fully human and fully divine, I see no reason at all why he didn't learn things as he lived his life, not least as a carpenter's son, but also in other ways. But probably the key thing that we can learn from Jesus to aid our own well-being is that of prayer. Jesus made time to pray, and he often did before and after major events, finding a solitary place. Fundamentally, Jesus' stability through prayer was to be alone, just him and God. And we can see how Jesus took time to pray in the busiest times. Yet so often when we're feeling overwhelmed or telling others and ourselves how busy we are, we neglect the one thing that will bring us that stability and will help us maintain our well-being: prayer. And there is nothing more important than that. Theory and practice are often very distant cousins. So what might you be able to do to strengthen their relationship? As we mark World Mental Health Day, what's going to be happening in your Mental Health Day, which will last until next year and the years to come?